Thank you. And thanks for coming out to the meeting tonight. Could I ask everyone to stand for a pledge of allegiance, please? Good evening again. Thanks for coming out. Hopefully everyone had a nice Easter weekend who celebrates that. Like to call the meeting to order and note that everyone is present and ask if there is a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
To accept the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Sam. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We have the agenda as it was written. Brief reports up front. Kyle, Mr. Manager, anything you'd like to share?
Sure, just a couple thank yous. So last week or maybe week and a half, we received notice from the federal government that we had received a little over 900,000 towards a sewer plant expansion. So still a long way to go, but just a thank you to our team, Rob and Denise and Sonny, for doing a really good job bringing in almost $1 million. To date, that's about 10 million over the last 2.5 years, which is state, county, federal donations and developer contributions. So doing a project and they agree to pay for something. So a significant amount of money. Just to thank you to our staff for doing that. And thank you to Sonny for filling in here tonight.
Thank you, Kyle. Chief Holsworth?
Good evening. I did send an electronic report to you earlier this afternoon. Unfortunately, with how the month ended yesterday, we weren't able to get a report to you any sooner. If you have a chance to review that and have any questions, I'm happy to answer anything. Other than that, I'm going to leave it be.
Chief, can I follow up on 2 questions?
Certainly.
Related to your report. You're involved in the Migrant Renters Rights Forum on April 11th, which will be here at 6 o'clock for anyone who's interested. Briefly, Chief, what is the police department's responsibility when it comes to that?
Sure. So it's more of an information. So I was invited to the forum that was held last year out in Avondale Borough. More of an information sharing and really to dispel some misinformation that's out there. We had a lot of people that were subjected by their tenant or their landlords, threatened that they were going to be, the police were going to come and deport them. Just all kinds of misinformation. So it was a good ability or good opportunity to share some information as far as what we do, how we get involved, and really our involvement is to kind of quell things that are heated at the moment. To tell landlords, what their specific rights are and a court process that they can follow, and also let people know what their rights are as far as tenants, and to make sure that, situations don't, sort of boil over.
And second question, thank you. Second question is, you were involved and toured the Chester County Prison to better understand the internal operations. From your perspective, how is it? Is it better than it was? Have they made significant changes? What do you think?
They are making some monumental changes. And I'll be honest with you, my involvement with the prison over the years really never went beyond just the central booking location where we would drop people off. We got a tour of it myself, Lieutenant Rongus, Sergeant Gravina took a tour internally. And it is truly a little city within, Chester County. They're doing some incredible work of training staff that haven't had the opportunity for training. I think I heard a comment that training was, maybe $3,500 a year for, I think 700 employees, which is just unheard of. So they are really taking some new steps in a new direction to retain the staff that they have, to better them, to build upon it. And it was eye-opening. So we were happy that we took the tour.
Good to hear.
Definitely.
Is there anyone? I don't see anyone from the fire department here this evening. Anything, Kathleen, you wanted to share from the fire department's perspective? No? Okay. Mr. Mayor? I had just a couple of brief comments. We had an executive session this evening, began at 6 o'clock before this meeting to discuss both personnel and legal matters. Secondly, as a follow-up to the workshop, for those of you who were here, was centered on affordable housing in March, there were two follow-up items. One was for the Planning Commission to take a look at the accessory dwelling unit zoning and to see if there's any tweaks or changes they want to recommend to the council. Not that they will, but they were asked to take a look at, and I understand at the last meeting, they did discuss that, and we'll get back to the council with recommendations either at the May or the June meeting. And then lastly, was to take a look at what borough properties there could be that could be involved or used to support affordable housing. That's still an action in place. As most people know, there aren't very many, if any, but that's something we'll do as well. With that, committee reports. Joel, will you share briefly the Finance Committee?
Yes, sir. The Finance Committee met on March 21st. We met with Lorenzo Marino from True Access Capital, who was present to present on the revolving loan fund, which has been lying relatively dormant for the last couple of years at least. We're working on getting caught up on the rules and regulations involved in its use and how we can, between council and staff and the Finance Committee, get it up and running again to benefit everyone here in the community. We accepted the minutes from the February 20th meeting. Bills were reviewed and approved for payment, or at least to present to council for approval. And we did a review of the full 2023 financial numbers. They ended up being slightly better than anticipated, which was good news. And then the 2024 to date is on track for what little has passed so far.
Thanks very much, Joel. Development, Timothy or Kathleen, anything to share?
Just that at the meeting, it was sort of a reorganization as they approved a new member, it's Doug Dorfler, and are reorganizing. We sort of tasked them with looking at several projects and come back to us with a list of projects that they want to look into: parking, ADAs, State Street, and a few others that were next few meetings. We'll get back from them what the priorities are.
Thanks very much. Julie, anything to share from an environmental standpoint?
Yeah, so just this month.
Julie, could I ask you just to speak a little bit closer to the mic?
Hi. Yeah, so just this month we met for the first time. The team consists of myself, Kyle, Lexi, who is the planning manager, Joe, who is the planning zoning coordinator. We have Daniel from Kennett Collaborative and Christina from Square Root Collective, all part of this newly created committee. And so basically what the idea is in our initial plan is to start with a State Street revitalization project, where we partner with a local landscape architect to come up with 5 locations in and around State Street, in hopes to create little moments in and around town that are walkable. So this will have, plans, think little art, think a little fun. And so we're coming up with those ideas right now. We're in the process of applying for a grant that hopefully we'll get in May that'll help fund the money for this landscape architect. And then the idea is to start partnering in and around Kennett with local companies in hopes to help support the funding for those projects. So more to come. The team will likely expand with time, but we're really excited on where we're headed and some of the ideas that the team came up with.
Thanks very much. Public safety, Mr. Mayor?
In our meeting, we looked at 2 special event permits, which will be coming up on the agenda tonight. We also looked at the way we're going to continue to track long-term issues that come up with public safety and how we report back on them and how we manage them, and we're finalizing that tool. And lastly, we just announced that the next meeting that we have, which is now the last Tuesday of the month at 7 o'clock, we'll be looking at our emergency planning document to see if there are updates or things that need to be done.
Thank you very much. Kathleen, anything you want to add?
Nope,
You're in public
that was it.
safety. Thank you both. Julie, once again, community relations and communications.
We're making progress, but I don't have an update yet.
Okay, fair enough. Infrastructure, as I think everyone knows by now, there's a new infrastructure committee. The purpose is to oversee the capital, which is a very large portion of our budget and our investment into the future of the town as well. We met for the first time on March 19th. It's Rob, Lexi was there, Kyle was there, Denise Rodriguez, who works in Public Works, as well as Pat McKenna and Nick Perigo, who are two of our residents that wanted to be on that committee. I think I hit everyone. I hope I did. And Ellie as well. Excuse me, forgive me. We had a great first start, just kind of introduced each other. Rob, obviously, we had a great start. Talked about the role, responsibilities, introduced each other to each other. And then we started to go down the topics, and our intent was to go through kind of the most important topics. And after about an hour into understanding the water system and the complications of water, I think we're just about ready to adjourn, Rob, isn't it right? It's fascinating for geeks like us, so I guess enjoy that kind of thing. But we certainly look forward to continuing that, and the public is always welcome to that as well. Let's see. And Sam, staff support and development, anything to share?
So staff support and development, formerly known as Personnel Committee, did meet on March 14th. We actually discussed the employee evaluation form, did a little revamping to that, and that is all in an effort to create a larger development plan for current staff within the borough.
Thank you very much. Lexi, could I put you on the spot? I guess I am already. Do you mind just standing up and introducing yourselves? Lexi's the newest employee we have, and just no more than 30, 35 minutes tops. Thank you very much, Lexi. And lastly, in the report section, we actually have Juan Tafola, who's our junior council person through August. Juan spent the last 3 months, 6 months, forgive me, in Mexico, catching up with family and friends and so forth. But a big part of that was better understanding the culture in Mexico and what relationships the borough might be able to form with some municipalities over there. Juan wanted to take a couple minutes this evening to kind of share with us the highlights of what he's done. Welcome back, Juan.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm still the council member. I haven't resigned. Well, as you probably heard, I spent 6 months in Mexico, in the state of Mexico, working on behalf of the borough and our communities, our Hispanic community here, to find a better way to help our Hispanic community that lives here in the borough. Yeah. I was currently staying in Toluca, which is an urban municipality located in the central zone of the state of Mexico, and it serves also as its capital city. It was founded 500 years ago, and its name means the place where God Tolo is, which is an Aztec god. It has an area of 426.85 kilometers squared, corresponding to 1.90% of the state surface, and it has a population of 910,608 inhabitants just in the city. It is one of the highest cities in the country and in North America, located more than 2,600 meters above sea level, where the marks one of the highest, and it shows that it's more important as a cultural industrial city with companies of great relevance to the world. For example, Chrysler has a factory there, Jeeps, all those get built there. Coca-Cola has a factory, Pfizer has a factory down there. The municipality it's a municipality that contributes the most of its state GDP, being the fourth municipality in the state of Mexico to receive most of its direct foreign investment, in addition to its richest in terms of cultural and natural heritage that multiplies its tourism offered in churches, museums, and hiking areas, without forgetting one of its main things it's known for, its big active volcano. At any moment, it'll go. The city has 26 museums with 10 cultural centers, 5 theaters, and 20 municipality auditoriums with 483 churches, 303 parks, and 7 industrial parks, which are like the big factory areas. Next, one of the main things that they celebrate is the alfanique, which is like a type of sugar candy. It's like we're known for the mushrooms, they're known for their alfanike. They celebrate this every year, which is the origin dates back to the mid 20th century, and the tradition sales of sweet sugars. They sell the traditions sales of sweet sugar skulls, pepita, and other creations of alfanike. They make skulls. They made this big donkey model out of alfanike, which is pretty cool. Some of the cultural activities are massive concert shows, contests, exhibitions, and workshops as part of these activities. Toluca's identity, it has 120 years of brewing tradition. If anybody drinks Victoria the beer, it actually is made in Toluca. It has a main production of bread. It has also some of the best coffee that's in Mexico. Nescafé, if anybody have heard that coffee, pretty good. It produces some of the best glass in the country, and it is also the first functional automotive cluster in all of Mexico. Next. In November 2023, I had the opportunity to meet with Ms. Erica Hernandez, who is the head of the Department of International Relationships of Toluca, and Mr. Pancho Carmona, who is the first council member of Toluca. We talked about the Toluca community that lives in Kennett Square in PA. We shared information about each other's cities and the statistics of how many Tolucanos are in Kennett Square and the US, and what their activities are in Kennett Square and across the Commonwealth. This led to the idea of a sister city agreement between Toluca and Kennett Square due to their high population of people from Toluca that live in Kennett Square. According to numbers and statistics from the Mexican government, PA has an estimated 400,000 Mexicans that come just from the state of Mexico, and the majority from them come from the capital, Toluca, which makes Kennett Square and its surrounding areas with a high number of people from Toluca that's in our community. An estimated 800 people from Toluca live in the area. This led to our base for a potential sister city agreement, which is focused on the high amount of Tolucanos in Kennett Square and to share a piece of their native land to their new place they call home here in the borough. To have an inter-exchange of culture like alfanike, art, and many other things that benefit both our communities in Kennett Square and Toluca. The ideas of a Mexican placita, where the community could gather and where food can be sold, like many products from Toluca and across Mexico. This will bring tourism to the borough and allow Mexican-owned businesses to thrive in our borough. Next. The Mexican community in PA and Kennett Square. Mexicans in Pennsylvania estimated at 200,000. Majority are from the state of Mexico, Puebla, Guerrero, Guanajuato, and Moroleon. 6,000 are from the state of Mexico and from the municipalities of Toluca, Amoloya, Tenango del Valle, and Sultepec. Majority of these people from Toluca and the state of Mexico live in Kennett Square, Tafkaneman, Avondale, Oxford, and West Grove. Next. So what's next? Hopefully we start looking at the official documents to share a sister city agreement that benefits both communities. Look at the opportunities to share a culture between both cities and help construct the idea of a Mexican plaza for Kennett Square. And since December 2023, I met the historian of Toluca, Mr. Francisco Javier Schroeder. We both share a passion for culture and to share our great cities to the world. In February of 2024, we released a series of books which shares the story of the state of Pennsylvania and the history of Kennett Square and its Mexican community to the Toluca community and the Mexican community. This book became a success and has become a bestseller in Toluca and the state of Mexico. This is the book we wrote about Kennett Square in Toluca, which is a bestseller in Mexico. We plan on releasing copies in English in these upcoming months. I have some of the pictures about the event. State legislators attended and federal government officials attended to the release of this book. Next. Besides from also doing a sister city agreement, I worked on a series of projects that are focused on helping the Mexican community. I had the pleasure of attending the State Committee on Coordination for a program called Programa Eres Paisanos, which is translated to comrades, a program dedicated to helping the Mexican comrades. is a program dedicated to help foreign Mexicans and foreign visitors with information about documents and how to help them travel safely to Mexico. The program is coordinated by the National Institution of Migrants in Mexico. And I also had the pleasure to share about Kenneth Square and our Mexican community and to make sure they're allowed a safe travel into Mexico. Next. There's some meetings with some officials of the Mexican government. Next. I also met with members of the Mexican political party PRI, Partido Revolucionario Institucional, which is the Party of Revolutionary Institution. We are working together on helping the Mexican community down here in down here in the borough of Kenneth Square and across the nation to help them in terms of migrant matters, and to also inform them that they can still exercise their rights to vote in the Mexican elections that are coming up this year. Next. There's some of the events I attended from the party. Next. Also had the pleasure to meet with the judicial power of the state of Mexico, which is like the Supreme Court. In January, I met with Judicial Council member Mr. Pablo Espinosa Marquez and his advisor, Mr. Javier Colleen. We had the opportunity to share about the Mexican community in the US, PA, and Kenneth Square. We shared the issues that the Mexican community faces, especially the issue of extortion and legal matters. We established a program-sized campaign called the Electronic Court, which is focused on helping the Mexican community in the US and the world who can't go to Mexico and attend their Mexican legal matters due to their immigration status. Examples are Mexican divorces, adoptions, land disputes, and many more. This program also helps combat the extortion where some Mexicans hire lawyers in Mexico and end up getting scammed and no legal process is done, which is a big issue. Millions of dollars are sent to Mexican lawyers, and majority of them end up getting scammed. This program allows the level of security to verify that a Mexican's legal matters are being handled through the judicial power of Mexico or not, and are not just being told lies and being scammed. Next. Here's some pictures with the president of the Supreme Court of Mexico. Next. In March 2024, I had the honor to share the history and the story of Kenneth Square MPA to high schoolers from High School 1, Adolfo Lopez Mateos from the University of State of Mexico. I shared to them the businesses in State Streets, the Creamery, the market, and many other great things. I gotta share and talk about our Kennett High School and its many great opportunities it offers. Many students showed interest in an exchange to Kennett High School and Kennett. One of the goals of the series of projects is to help student exchanges between Kennett Square and Toluca. Next. Some of the pictures from the event I was able to talk. Next. Well, that's all. Thank you.
Wow, very impressive. Wow. Any questions from council staff or anyone in the audience for Juan?
I don't have a question. I just want to thank Juan, and I'm glad to see that he's back here.
Yeah, terrific, terrific.
I sit with family in Toluca.
Juan, again, very impressive. Thanks for the bridges you're building between Mexico and Little Kennett Square here. Thank you very much. I'd also like to offer to anyone either on Zoom or in the audience, if you have a specific question for either the chief related to a police matter or to Rob Moran in terms of a public works matter or question, just briefly and specifically related to that, please do so. You're more than welcome to do that if we keep it in line with those two topic areas for right now. Anyone? If it's related to police or public works right now, you're more than welcome to, yes.
Do I speak here? Is
Yeah,
that where-
please.
I'm not sure of the order. Okay, my question, I'm Sonia Muckley at 524 Lafayette Street. And my question is mainly to Public Works. They've been working on West South Street on the sidewalk. Portions of the sidewalk have been repaired in front of the trailer that is still standing, that we addressed that issue at one point, and I still don't know what is going on. Anyway, the sidewalk is great, but that's not the main problem on that street. We don't have any speed limit signs on that street. The one that we do have, I requested 10 years ago, was a little 15 miles and right in front of my house, so they would take that turn a little slower. Nobody does. It is now covered by a new electric pole that was just put up there this past week. What we really need there is more like the Miller Hill signs on the street that says slow down and tells you how fast you should be going. Something that draws the attention to it, because nobody respects any speed limit there. Everybody goes very fast. Even the men that were working on the sidewalk said when they finished, they were still working on holes underneath there. They had trucks come around them to protect them because everybody was going so fast again. There's absolutely no limit to how fast you can go there. People gun their engines. They just race one another. And we don't have any crosswalks yet. It's been about a year since we had some sewer work done there and the crosswalks were eliminated. We don't have a crosswalk at Harvey Circle with West South Street. We don't have a crosswalk at Center Street with West South Street. We don't have a crosswalk at Lafayette Street with West South Street. And these are all big intersections, that need people to pause and look around to respect the stop sign, which is hidden behind the bush at 401 West South Street. It's been hidden behind that bush for a year. Nobody sees it and nobody wants to see it. So everybody's jaywalking across that intersection. Nobody's stopping. I think we need something. We need those crosswalks back there, and we need them big. Like they stopped at Land Hope, and they're very beautiful in front of the school. They're very beautiful up here on the north side, up on this side of the railroad tracks. But we have nothing to respect the traffic, to respect pedestrians or people trying to pause. We get harassed if we're going the speed limit, because everybody goes so fast on that on West South Street.
Understood. Thank you. Rob or Chief, is there a response you'd like to share, or is that something to go take a look at?
Chief, may I address another issue quickly? Harvey Circle also has 3 broken down cars that have been on Harvey Circle for the last year at least. They all have flat tires. Nobody knows who they belong to, because I've asked a couple of people. I walk my dogs there all the time. People that live on Harvey Circle, some say this person's friend. Nobody knows. So I don't know if the police can look into that, but they are sitting on Harvey Circle, and they have
Certainly, we can look into that.
and they have flat tires. They are the little station wagon has oil leaking all over the street. They've just been sitting there for at least a year now.
We'll take a look at that.
Thank you. I appreciate
I'll let
it.
Rob answer about the crosswalks. though.
Yes, please. Thank you.
The painting or the striping is actually going to be done as part of that sidewalk project, the Safer Routes project. Once they're done, their sidewalks, then they'll come in and they actually will mark the road, especially West South Street, as a share of, and also the crosswalks. Now, I will tell you that the PennDOT approved plan does not show a crosswalk at Center or at Harvey Circle to go on the west side.
But there used to be one, because they're very faded there, but they used to have crosswalks there. Nobody, like I'm walking my dog and people will roll right into me and expect me to run.
One thing is this project, that it was a PennDOT project, does not have it in there.
Can we get it?
And well, the issue I have, and I spoke to somebody last week about it, is anytime we put in a crosswalk, it has to be ADA compliant. So we can do it after the project is over, but we can't do it immediately because the brand new sidewalk that they put in and the brand new curb that they put in are not ADA cut. They don't have an ADA compliant entrance to the sidewalk. So, and that's the issue we have. Now, I also talked to that person, I can't remember their name. They live there on West South. That it might be a perfect spot that we look for some kind of speed table too. Because if you want to slow the traffic up and you want to put ADA compliant crosswalk there, the speed table is a wonderful thing.
And did you say that we're going to get something that says slow and speed limit on the street?
it's actually called a share, which basically means that there's going to be markings that that road is supposed to be shared with bicycles. So that's all part of the PennDOT project. I do have the markings on actually share with you. I could actually drop them.
That would be great. I'd appreciate that. Did you say we're getting a crosswalk at Lafayette and West South Street?
Okay, correct. Now, there is an ADA cut on the other side of the apartment, but the problem is, over on your side, there aren't any sidewalks. So
Yes, but
that's
there's a sidewalk where I'm talking about, and there used to be a crosswalk before you guys got into the sewer project. Then you paved everything out and boom, it
I'm
disappeared.
going to respectfully ask Rob and if you could just either after the meeting or at a public safety meeting to discuss the specifics of it. You understand the concerns. He's the right guy to answer those questions. I just want to keep the meeting rolling.
I'm sorry, when is the safety
Public
meeting?
safety?
The last Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m.
Last Tuesday of the month. Okay, but we can talk
that's
before
where
then.
prints, so you can see it.
No, we can talk before
Yeah.
that. Thank you very much. I appreciate your
Yep.
time.
Absolutely. Were there any other brief questions specific to either the chief or Public Works?
Hi, my name is Anna Young. I'm on West Mulberry. We were here at the last public safety meeting about the new no parking signs on West Mulberry. And I was just wondering what the speed test results were. I know you were conducting a speed test there with the speeding issue. And that was something that came up a lot as we were talking about this no parking issue for the people who live there.
Sure. Let me see if I can actually bring it up. So we did get the results back in. And what it showed was there was less than a 1%, I'm sorry, just over a 1% speeding. What it showed actually was that the majority of cars actually are traveling at the speed limit or below an enforceable limit, which would be 35 miles an hour for a 25-mile-an-hour speed zone. What it doesn't show though is how the effect on the parking is. And I know there was concerns that came up as far as that, by cars not parking on that south side of the street, it was going to increase the speeds of the vehicles. We found that to not be accurate. I think sometimes it's a perception issue. And we will say that there was a handful of cars out of typically an average of about 1,500 cars per day. There was your 3 to 5 cars that, are going probably 45. There was even one, I believe, that was doing 50. That's something that we can take an enforcement approach on and try and narrow down the times when those are, if it's the same person, whatnot. But the data did show us that there wasn't actually a speeding issue per se. Usually we want to see something over like a 10 to 15% rate that people are violating for it to be really a concern like that. But I think what we talked about before the public safety was, I think it's a larger conversation of your explanation to council as far as, the impact that it's taken on you. And then council as the policymakers to decide what they want to do going forward.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sir?
Yeah, so my name's Kendall King. I'm a homeowner on the same street there. I just want to reiterate that parking is an issue there. There's not a whole lot of parking, it's duplexes right there. So there's not a whole lot of parking on the north side of the street. So without the south side parking is an issue. Speeding's an issue. Maybe we do speed bumps or something like that on both ends of the street or other options where we can keep the parking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is item 10A, the consideration to auction off 2 former police vehicles or police vehicles that are no longer needed. Chief, is that you?
Sir, so this is for 2 vehicles that we have taken out of the rotation. One is a 2015 Ford Explorer, one is a 2017 Dodge Charger. Both vehicles have been decommissioned. They're replaced by new vehicles that we received this year. And what we're looking for is for council's approval to go ahead and actually proceed with the auction of them.
Any discussion or questions from council? Any objection to putting this on the consent agenda for Wednesday evening? I'll take that as a yes. Next item is 11A, consideration of both permanent and temporary easements on Cypress and Willow First. Rob, I assume is that you or Kyle? Okay.
There's a number of easements for the construction on First Street and also on Willow Street. And we're going to need temporary construction easements so that we'll be able to work putting new sidewalks in, and the workers will encroach on the property. The sidewalks will not, so they're considered temporary. We're going to basically, once we're done, we're outside of or we're within the right of way, and they get their land back. The temporary is over. The other one is temporary and permanent. Those temporary is with the construction. The permanent is those properties on Willow. There's 3 properties up there that we were not able to get ADA compliance on the ramps without doing some work further back outside of the right of way. So right now we have a verbal that they would allow us to have permanent pedestrian easement, so that we're able to construct the ADA ramp.
Any discussion from council?
So, with the temporary ones, all those residents have been, or property owners have been contacted and.
I was looking at all properties.
Thank you.
When's that project supposed to start up, Ron?
Well, one of them is starting, the Willow Street project, which you'll see the crosswalks and the ADA ramps have Cypress, Willow, and also Statesville. And that also includes the speed limit. The other project, if you approve it this week, we'll put it out to bid next week.
Any other questions? Any public question or comment? With that, is there any objection to putting both items 11A and 11B on the consent agenda? Thank you. Next item is the Birch Street reconstruction, breaking and block party. I think that was in front of the public safety.
It was. There were a couple of questions which were resolved this past week. So based on that, the Public Safety Committee recommended approval.
Luke, did you want to say something?
Sure. I'm formally sort of raising this for consideration as a part of the group of partners that are involved in celebrating the groundbreaking. So I'm really here to speak in support of it, that it's really a tremendously exciting future for our community. The groundbreaking ceremony for the Birch Street Improvement Project, including a family-themed Birch Street block party that would immediately follow the official groundbreaking on Saturday, May 18th. So the partners involved in this celebration are the borough itself, Kennett Trails Alliance, Braylock Brewery, West Branch Distillery, the Creamery, which, as you know, is a part of our organization, Square Roots Collective. And it's really heartening to be part of such a broad group of partners supporting the vision to build upon Birch Street's rich history by enhancing it as a place for art, culture, and community. As you know, it starts with a partnership with the borough, the county, the Commonwealth, and our organization to complete the improvement of Birch Street itself. And this is really built on a foundation of investment that people, just noticing Mike and Patty here, people like Mike and Patty have been investing on this street for a long time. And so these improvements really build upon their work. So as a reminder, the street improvement project includes much needed repaving of the street, stormwater improvements to reduce flooding, new sidewalks and curbs, new crosswalks, street lighting, traffic calming improvements to make the street safer for pedestrians, and beautification measures, including new plantings along the street. And credit to Rob and Denise for their efforts to devise a plan that accommodates the diverse businesses and residents on the street. As you know, we're supporting this project financially in partnership with the borough, the county, and the Commonwealth. And we're doing so because we believe that Birch Street can be a thriving new gathering place for our community. From our perspective, that's what matters most, partnering with others to make Kennett an even better place to live, work, and gather. And it's this is really the purpose behind our ownership of the Creamery and the soon to be completed Artello, the former Birch Inn. 100% of the profits from which fund community improvement projects and programs in Kennett Square. Our plan is that when these businesses do well, it's really good for the whole community because all of the profits are reinvested in Kennett Square. The groundbreaking event is on May 18th. It's a chance to celebrate the improvements that are coming for Birch Street. And the plan is to hold a Birch Street block party immediately following the official groundbreaking. The block party promises a day of fun and entertainment for our neighbors, their families, and the entire Kennett community. It will feature a stage with live music, vendors and community organizations, food and beverages for purchase, and fun activities for children and family. Things like a bouncy house, balloon animals, street chalking, as well as other games and activities. We think it's a great way to celebrate a great day for Birch Street's future, and we at Square Roots are delighted to be a part of it.
Thank you very much. Any questions from council?
I had a really minor question. In our pre-read, the insurance was left blank. Did that get sorted out?
I assume,
I mean, I assume these organizations have insurance, but I just noticed that it wasn't filled in the form.
Luke, you have insurance? on your
We
site?
do have insurance on our site, yes.
It's certainly a good question. Let's just make sure we'll clear it up.
So I think, so with all the different organizations that are involved, like Braylock and West Branch, their insurances have to be pulled into that as well.
We'll have to follow up on that question.
Usually once it spills into the street, there's a 1-day insurance policy for an event.
But ask Natalia, who.
Go ahead.
We have asked all vendors to provide a COI, which is a certificate of insurance. So everybody who's going to be selling in the street, same with organizations, will have their own insurance.
I think what you might be needing is the borough to be named as an additional insured is what you're looking for.
That's the condition of the event application, is that the COI has to list the borough as an additional insured during the event time.
Which you guys are, so.
And then we had the other question about selling
Yes, that was resolved via email, that the alcohol is going to be maintained within the confines of the properties themselves and not on the street.
To clarify that, the alcohol will be sold on the confines of the properties, but the idea is to have a sort of barricaded
Consumption area.
consumption area. Yeah.
And the chief agreed with that, that as long as the alcohol is being sold and controlled, but based on the liquor license within those parameters, that there can be a controlled area for consumption. And that was agreed upon via email this week.
And the conversation I had with Christine also was that they're going to have staff that are also going to be at any of the exit points, as you would leave the Birch Street area into any residential area or whatnot, that are have the training as far as looking for anybody that is, has been overserved, anything along those lines. And they're also going to have people kind of wandering throughout the event that are going to be monitoring that as well.
Any brief questions from anyone in the audience?
Will there be a cover charge to get onto the street or?
No cover charge.
Any objection?
Is that sufficient for the insurance question, or do you want us to check it?
I didn't hear the answer, sorry.
The general requirements are that for any borough event that includes the street or the right of way, the borough has to be named as an additional insured on their certificate of insurance.
A number of events that relate to the borough. We have listed you as a insured on our events policies. So the borough will be covered through that. And we can also send you confirmation of that.
Mike,
Thanks for clarifying.
thank you. Mike, does that cover any concerns you have? Okay. With that, any objection to putting this on the consent agenda? Thank you. And thanks for doing this, folks. Next item is the request to waive the garage fee for the Kennett Run with an impact of $400. Mayor, is this you?
Mr. Merkel's here from the Kennett Run and is going to make his request to council. Keep in mind that this year we instituted a parking fee at the garage, that if we were going to open the garage and open the barriers during special events or during certain times, that there was a charge that would cover the average amount of revenue that the borough would generate during those times. So the request from Mr. Merkel is that council consider waiving it.
Didn't know there was a fee. Uh, a question if I can, well, what we're requesting is to have the fee waived from beginning of the day, if you will, until 1 o'clock when Cinco de Mayo starts. Well, we're trying to stage the run so that it ends when Cinco de Mayo begins. And we'd like to get, instead of all the remote parking down here, bring it more into the middle of town so we can try and get more of the people to actually stay for Cinco de Mayo. And then also generated what hopefully will be an over amount from normal in parking fees in the afternoon to largely compensate for whatever was lost in the morning. What we don't know is how much you actually collect by day part or even on a Saturday. So with your electronics, I was hoping we wouldn't have to raise the gate, but you'd be able to keep them, because if somebody came in at 8 for the run and stays until 4 because they go to Cinco de Mayo, you would be able to charge them for their time from when they came in through. If you raise the gate, you'd never be able to catch any of it, I assume. I don't know how to get out if the gate comes down in the afternoon.
So it wouldn't function that way. If the gates are raised, you wouldn't be able to charge somebody that's already parked there.
I was thinking the gates would stay down. To me, you got an electronic parking system. I'm hoping it has some ability for you to control what charges are applied at what time of an individual day.
Not
I
the
have
day
no
of.
idea if it
We would
does.
have to set that up ahead of time, unfortunately.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So what you're saying is then in the 400, it would cost us $400 to waive the fee.
Right, that the current cost to have a no parking charge in the garage is $400 to have the arms raised so people can come and go.
And that would be all day then.
What's the charge for the whole day? It is 400 for the whole day, right?
Really, I think the question comes down to if you're going to do it for the morning session of the Kennett Run, you should probably continue that through Cinco de Mayo for the day. Right. Because you're going to have that overlap of certain people are only going to be charged. I just think it would probably be better that way if that's the consideration.
Yeah, I was saying if it's 400 for the whole day, I guess the only option would be to split it or something like that if we were going to impose
Yeah,
the fee
We can
across. both.
work that out with Cinco de Mayo directly.
So what are you offering, Bob?
I said, if we have to pay the $400 fee, we can work with Cinco de Mayo to
Gotcha.
split it. And that's probably acceptable then.
Right, okay.
And we'll see how it goes this year for how much we can get people to stay in town. Because the issue with the run historically has been, we're in town for the run, but we don't really have anybody in town taking advantage of the town. And with Cinco de Mayo in the afternoon, there's a reason for them to stay. We're just starting to joint market it as of this month. Come for the run, stay for Cinco de Mayo kind of thing. And so that's part of why we're looking to have the garage fee waived. So encourage people to not park at the high school as much as there, have a bus stop for them and stuff. So we can haul them in and out of the park and all until Cinco de Mayo's running.
Gotcha. Kyle, is this a precedent if this happens?
You can make a precedent either way on it. So last year we charged Longwood for use of the garage for when they bust people in, back and forth. And we didn't charge for Third Thursday. So it's a question of, it's really just a judgment call somewhere in the middle.
Council discussion?
The other events that we are charging for this is the Kennett Rotary,
Yep. And it on
and they're
top.
paying this year. Yeah. Just make that.
Follow up to that or just,
No, I just want to make sure everybody understood
Okay.
that.
yeah,
We have already set a precedence of charging.
I would rather keep that precedent personally.
sounds like there's at least one person who would like this not to be on the consent agenda. So what other issues should we bring up so we can have that discussion on Wednesday?
It's also how the parking garage works and the fact that for an event that big, all day, being open and available, is that a good or a bad?
I guess personally, I'd add that, who doesn't love the Kennett Run or Cinco de Mayo, and what it does for town. Challenge is which event is next and which event is next, and do we just, for everyone, say, if it's a nonprofit group, then the borough doesn't charge for that parking? That's the grayness, that concerns me a little bit. So with that, unless there's any other discussion, Julie, do you want to say something?
No, I mean, I kind of agree with you guys.
And if anyone wants to sponsor parking for that day on behalf of Cinco de Mayo and the Kennett Run, that's very welcome. That puts it to bed as well. So Bob, if you're available, do you mind coming back on Wednesday?
Yeah.
Please, thank you.
Thank you.
The consideration of the approval of the personnel manual, I'm asking that that be put or taken off the agenda or delayed until our May meeting. Is that okay? We'll table that? Okay, tabled. Really just because it is such a lengthy document, just to give everyone the due time to review those documents. Consider the YMCA lease amendment agreement. Mike, is that you or Kyle?
Sure, I can jump off. So obviously earlier this year and later last year, we had discussions about the YMCA pool issue and amendments to the ground lease. We'd approved the form of those here at the council, sent them off to the YMCA. And then just after our last meeting last month, they sent us some revisions. So Kyle has forwarded around, I believe, the latest and greatest. The main changes are mostly just wordsmanship. Nothing affects the leasing for this year. If we look at paragraph 1, they just want to make sure that they have a little bit of flexibility in setting those rates for future years based on the actual operational costs, not just keep it open-ended. They still have to get our approval for doing that. And the rates that they set, they still have to send them to us by certain dates. They have to send us the budget information by certain dates.
Thank you, Kyle. Anything to add? Nope. Council discussion. I have a couple suggestions and a question or two. I'll go sort of in reverse order. I'd suggest that in paragraph number 1, paragraph 8, use of the premises of the ground lease shall be amended to read as follows. I would suggest after the line that says leasing acknowledges that it shall use and occupy the premises for a community swimming pool and related facilities and programs on a not-for-profit basis. I would suggest we actually add language to define what community means, because that was the gist of the entire discussion that we had, was what constituted a community pool. And I would suggest something to the effect of the meaning of community swimming pool shall mean available to residents of the borough of Kennett Square, regardless whether they are members of the YGBW, the YMCA, or not, for their enjoyment at reasonable times, days, and costs, accepting that YGBW will also use the pool for its programs and members. Just somehow, maybe those are the wrong words, but just to somehow define what community pool means. And then with that, I think to make that completed, I would add a second whereas, which is whereas YGBW is a not-for-profit entity based in Kennett Square. And then my other questions, Mike or Kyle, on page 2, there's language about the pool hours, and then it says subject to reasonable adjustments by the leasee. Concerns me what reasonable means in how we define that. I mean, I would tend to strike that unless there's a way that we can pin it down to say what the risk is to the residents. And then lastly, on page 3, it says leasee's failure to keep the community swimming pool regularly open in accordance with the lease between Memorial Day and Labor Day, defined as the season, more than one season in any 5-year period shall be deemed material. I guess I'm uncomfortable that they can, with this agreement, not open the pool for a year and still have the agreement stand. I mean, if they came to the council, got permission because of a COVID or some understandable mitigating reason, then I think that's a fair request, but it should be on a one-off basis.
So for the last one, that comes from our existing agreement. And I believe it's more than one season. So this actually shortens that time frame down. And we've already had one season last season, which was not available. So we're already there, my opinion, if they don't offer it next year.
Because they didn't offer it in the
Right.
last 5 years.
And that's under our existing, because this just amends our existing agreement. It does not take it all out of the picture.
Any other council thought or discussion? We'll take this off the consent agenda and certainly invite any comments on Wednesday's meeting regarding that as well. And I don't want to take away any credit for the Y. Remember, the reason we have this community pool and are able to afford it is because the Y basically supports the capital, the infrastructure, the operations of the pool. So I think there needs to be a sharing of it, but I just want to make sure that borough's protected in that as well. So we'll take it off consent.
If I could just, I would recommend opening up the language a little bit on page 3. The borough, Kennett Square shall support grant applications. There's a few other words below that, just to make that a little less binding.
Any other discussion? Next item is consider updated Kennett Area Park Authority Agreement. Is there anyone from Kappa here this evening? Kyle, Mike, you want to take it away?
I try my best. So APA, which obviously operates the Anseby Nixon Park, is looking for an agreement with us to establish its funding levels or anticipated funding levels on a multi-year basis. So that's what this cooperation agreement does. It jumps in large part from some of our prior cooperation agreements that were in place years ago with Kappa that have since lapsed and kind of obviously Kappa hasn't gone away, but the agreements have been in place. What it does is it establishes our current funding rate for 2024, which is 35,000, and the anticipated contribution level of a 4% increase each year for the next 5 years. That's anticipated, and that's still all subject to Borough Council's approval each year. That doesn't bind you. This is really more of kind of a visioning document to kind of try to get us all on the same page, rather than one where someone would sue someone for breaking the contract if we didn't provide 4%.
In the spirit of goodwill and trust, I guess.
Correct, yep.
Any discussion?
Just the same comment as the last one, page 4, section 2.5, just not committing to support any grant that comes forward. Obviously, we want to work with them. I don't think we've encountered a situation with them where we haven't, but let's just try to be a little more conservative.
Is that changing the wording?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's really just saying agrees to consider support, aid, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So it looks like we're going to see a new agreement then, a revised agreement. So we'll take it off the consent agenda. Any other discussion or questions from council? I have one on page 4, section 2.6, and then 2.6 as it relates to 3.1. Specifically, it reads in 2.6, Kappa is expected to repay such temporary borrowing promptly upon the completion of its fundraising campaign or when gifts or grants are received or at a time specified by the borough. Is that happened? Has that ever happened?
Not that I know of. Maybe it was before our time.
It's likely, sometimes with grant cycles, you don't get paid till the end of the project. It's likely that they'd be looking for, if it ever came up, I suppose, kind of a float loan to cover them during construction.
My question, I guess, the clarity I'm looking for is this says that it's an obligation of Kappa. For instance, the 30,000, I think the borough gave them to do the next phase of that pole barn. Is that a loan or is that a donation from fee in lieu of funds? And is that going to present any potential conflict? Just read through that, Mike, if you would.
Yeah.
And make sure there isn't, and maybe I'm reading it incorrectly.
My understanding of that 32.5 was that was a capital contribution, not a loan.
Yes. Yeah. So we will not put this on the consent agenda. The next item is consider the volunteer appointment of Nick Peregro and Pat McKenna. As I mentioned earlier, they're both volunteering to be on the infrastructure committee. Nick Peregro is certainly known by a lot of folks, former council person, very involved in the town, and certainly involved in the construction industry. And then Pat McKenna, also, who's an engineer actually, offered and gave a lot of valuable input and questions at the first meeting we had. I don't see either of them here this evening. Any discussion or question from council?
Great. I'm glad he's on one of the committees.
I will put this on the consent agenda. We'll put this on the consent agenda, if that's okay. Thank you. And then there's one other appointment of David Eldrith as an alternate to the zoning hearing board. Is David here by any chance? David, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
David, just brief background on you and your desire to be on the zoning hearing board?
Sure. I've lived in Canada for 25 years. I live on West Cypress Street, 100 block, and I've always wanted to be involved in public service, and I saw your solicitation for committee members in the newsletter, and I decided to take you up on it and apply.
That's terrific. Thank you. Any other questions from council? I'll take that as a yes to put on the consent agenda. Thank you very much for volunteering, David. Approval of bills paid in the amount of $908,455.16. Joel?
Yes, they were taken up during our last finance committee meeting, and we had all of our questions answered and submitted them to the council for approval.
Any questions? Put it on consent unless there's an objection. And item 12I are the minutes from the March 4th meeting first. Any discussion, edits, changes? Okay to put it on consent? I'll take that as a yes. And then the March 6th minutes. Any discussion? I mean, there's two typos. I'll just give those to you separately, minor typos. Okay to put that on consent? Terrific, thank you. Please.
Reason they're not on the public meeting documents? Is it just because of the quick turnaround for the new month?
Because they're not approved yet.
Oh, I
So
see.
council
Okay.
approves them, then.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Next item is the consideration of a resolution to name the red clay demonstration project by the new name of Cypress Beach.
Hello, I'm Natalia Santiago with Kennett Charles Alliance. Kind of created a presentation to talk about how we came up with the name of Cypress Beach. So this is the name process that we went through. I will be talking about them throughout the next slides. So the first thing that we did was created a flyer and created a survey that went out to the community, kind of letting people choose their names, but we had some criterias. Those criterias were like, it has to be something natural, geological, or other features that the park has. It can be something geographical of the location of the park. Something along with native plants, animals that are found in that area, or culture, historic significance of the surrounding community. After that, we got a lot of responses from the community. We did this with the flyers in Spanish and English so we can incorporate everybody in our community. Some of the names that were submitted were like Boulder Beach, Dalmatian Beach, Dalmatian Connections, Kennett Circuit Garden, Lenape Park, Mushroom Trail Parks. Out of that, we went to our advisory group, which is made out of businesses and other organizations in the community. where they got to choose the top 3 names. Then we went back out to the community and let them choose out of those top 3 names, which led us to Cypress Beach. During that time, we kind of wanted to do something fun. So we created the Three Kings Day celebration, but it was actually to do the name reveal for the park. We created a multicultural event with community partners. You can go to the next one. And this is, unfortunately, due to technical issues, we could not show that video revealing the name, but we were able to tell people what the name are. And we can go ahead and play. So we did that video to show everybody what the name was. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. This is some photos. We brought some real camos to the area. We had over 700 people show up to the event. And what we did and we loved about it was that we created an inclusive and welcoming space for everyone in our community. There was so much diversity that night. We loved it. And as you know, it might be like a blank canvas when you go right there now. But we are in the look of volunteers because we still have so much planting to do. We have decided to bring native plants, trees to the area. And those plants and trees also are part of what the community native things are. Thank you.
Thanks. Well deserved. Thank you. Any questions from the council? I think it's a great idea and just can't praise the Christina and Natalia and the entire Square Roots group for what you guys continue to do for the borough. It's impressive and much appreciated. Any public comment or question? With that, Kathleen? Yes, I'm specific to this. I'm sorry. Yeah. Sir? Related to this topic, correct? Yes, okay. Do I have the council's permission to put this on the consent agenda? Terrific, thank you. Last item I'll cover, and council, we're looking at the addendum to the employment agreement. That's the one pager. Basically what this does, it asks the borough to change Kyle's salary from its current $137,154 to $145,000 even, effective May 1st. That's a $7,846 increase. The rationale behind that is because two things. One is getting and keeping good, high-quality professionals amongst all of our staff is certainly a primary objective to get and keep those people, and secondarily to make sure that they're paid and remunerated fairly. And when we looked across all of our local communities, that was not the case. So that's what this comes from. So with that, any other discussion from the council? I will say it's paid for out of decreases in salary in other areas in terms of replacing people with some part-time people where it's needed, and overall trying to make sure we're spending your money appropriately. Any public comment or discussion related specifically to this? With that, do I have permission to put this on the consent agenda? Thank you. And with that, we'll now open it up, sir, to anyone that has a public comment. I ask you to please keep your comments civil, polite, professional, and to 4 minutes or less. Anyone? Not when public comment came up.
They need it at the time. They're just not giving it to you. You're taking it because you want to be in the race. You vote for been elected to represent the city. You've been elected to do financially responsible things to their job. You've been elected to make sure that the projects you do universally serve our citizens and our community. We're not seeing that being done. Just heard Burke Street another time. And I've been saying for the last 6 years, Burke Street, every time I come up, I'm telling you, you're responsible for something I have said, stay on it. And I'd like to hear from some of the other members here that were elected before us. Not only that, when you operate a meeting, if you don't know how to do it, you have to have some sort of parliamentary procedure. We hear the motion coming out of the business. We hear each one of you take the responsibility for such. We hear the monetary value of what the requests are. And then the votes stand. We're not hearing you. But I was presented 2 times, and I think that you must have something based on those presentations. And we weren't told that. I don't even want very quickly to do it for something. You're putting that. I want you to look at the certification before. And I'm standing right here. This arbitrage. This destructive thing that you have bought and continue to go down to the business. I don't get what you you're continuing with this psycho situation. And we're trying to build a police station on something that's not even developed. And in this town, in case you don't know, any project that's done is discussed and approved here. The specs, the layout is done in a public meeting so we can walk up and look at it and question what's going to be done. We've never had a presentation on what the end goal of this thing is. That's why it's good. We have no business building anything. If you want to put $4 million in something, take the word of police all like that. So we made sure we're going to own it here. Because over 21 million. I'm not letting you get away with that. As soon as I can get it on a larger medium to present it publicly, outside County Square, I'm working that. Because you need to be exposed. $21 million in raising people's taxes, and these people can't put this here. Forget that people who are low income, $100,000 you can't do. Tell me that I earned that kind of money 20 years ago. They can afford to live here and rent $1,800, $2,500 rent. And if you have some people you're talking about, ain't gonna be here long. Because those people, they're displacing as they sit up here and talk about affordable house. That's a smoke screen. Okay? And let's talk about we have black people here, Indian, and even some Asian, which these people have grown in the different minorities that we have. So let's concentrate on minorities. If you say we're underrepresented, let's talk about income level, and let's talk about price points of housing. Instead of trying to put a policy
Watson, try to wind up if you could. Thank you, Ms. Watson. Your time is up. You don't. I kept the clock, Ms. Watson. Ms. Watson. Ms. Watson, please respect the other people in the room. Ms. Watson, do you want us to put the meeting in recess? No, you have four, Ms. Watson, you have 4 minutes. I'm going to call the recess to this meeting right now. We're in recess.
As president, there's enough parking. I got up there. The entry meter, because we need that money.
Ms. Watson,
We need that money bad.
your time is up.
He is doing it for personal use, unless one of you do. Because he said he wanted that part. For that house, for Washington. Okay, he being Mr. John.
Ms. Watson, why do you get to take as much time as you want and no one else does? No, I took the watch. I took the time. Absolutely. We can disagree outside of here. Are there any other public comment? Yes, please. Please. Whoever would like to have a public comment, I'm not sure how to control this. You know, well, let's be polite. Let's be polite. Please come on up. Good grief, please. Sandy, welcome.
Sandy.
And when you get time, you can match what I tell this. Bring it on, Mr. North. I'm ready for you.
Please.
Sandy D'Antonio, 220 North Broad Street. I just have two things. One is on public safety. When people are crossing the streets, especially at Broad and also on Union Street, they don't really have time to cross because we have a sign that does not say no turn on red. So when you're trying to cross the street, there are people making right-hand turns. And I just think since we're talking about safety, that we ought to look at that. There's not much time to cross the street anyway, and North Broad Street isn't that bad. I mean, I personally like to turn right on red because I live on that street. But on Union Street, it's crazy. So I just want to know if we can do something about that because we do have a lot of tourists and people with strollers and walkers. So that's my comment.
So I agree. You're talking about Broad and State? About
Yes.
the traffic that they
Yes,
can turn north on
because
Broad?
Yes,
Yeah, no, that's definitely something we should look at. Where else did you mention?
just those two intersections, but probably, yeah, Union and
Union, I
State.
don't believe, there's no turn on red there.
Well, people are turning right on red and there isn't enough time when the light changes for people to really cross.
Okay.
Right.
We'll talk about the timing. Maybe that can actually be improved.
Okay, I mean, I know I'm old, but I can still walk fast. So anyway, okay. And then my other question is, can I submit comments about the planning commission meeting because I was out of town and there are a couple things like I am not in favor of accessory dwellings and there are a couple other issues. I mean, so I don't want to get into that, but can I submit comments to that or?
If you have any comments, any questions about anything, send them to help@kennettsq.org. And we will share it with either a committee or if it's a staff issue, we'll send it to them. help@kennettsq.org. Or if you stop in or if you call us, we'll get it on to them.
Okay, I'll stop in probably.
Okay.
And I had one more question now. It was a quick question, but I can't remember. I'm getting old. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Hold on one second, Ken, this gentleman, then you. Come on, that's okay, sir.
Rick Behinsky, 403 Kennett Square. Just a housekeeping thing first. I just want to confirm on the, was it the real estate bill, the library appropriation? Is that, because my understanding was that the borough doesn't fund the library. I just want to, because there's a library appropriation on there. I was just looking for,
The library
Yeah.
had a library tax basically put on the referendum last year for a 0.2% tax, which they have the right to do. They did it, so now that's baked into the borough taxes, yes.
Borough residents voted and the majority voted for the tax.
okay, so the borough does fund the library?
Well,
A
borough
certain amount?
taxpayer dollars
Okay.
do fund the library, yes.
Okay.
Through the taxing mechanism the borough has, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify that. And just from before, I'm still open. I'll give me, my number 610-675-7916. I know we were talking about possibly meeting up to discuss. Feel free to reach out about that. And also, Kyle, I remember last meeting you had some comments about that. I wanted to open that, to you. If you feel free if you guys want to talk about that now, I'm open that now. But just the question of if you.
Yeah, I think the comment last time was that we had connected you with one of the board members for the library, because a lot of the things that were brought up really aren't under our purview. So I don't know if you were able to connect with them, but I'd be happy to
Yeah.
connect again. Okay.
Yeah, if you could help me
Sure.
out with that.
Yeah.
But I guess the other comment was more of like a general, thing. The question was, do you believe that what's right and wrong is different depending on the individual?
I don't think it's our role to be picking what's going on in the library as far as books, if that's a question. But in terms of, meeting up, every resident, everybody in the connected to us, I'll always take that meeting. So if you want to
Okay.
reach out, absolutely.
Sure. But I just want to make sure, like, everyone understands my question. This isn't like True originally was about the library, but the bigger question is my question is as a board, I'm interested to discuss is, do you guys believe that determining what's right and wrong is something that's subjective? That's the question. And if you do, let me know. So
What's your answer to that question?
my answer is that it's absolutely not subjective to determine, right and wrong
Every situation, there is a right and there is a wrong.
in a moral situation, not right and wrong of you like provolone cheese or American cheese on a hoagie. That's,
I'm gonna
Yeah.
politely,
Yeah.
Broad to answer, to be
And-
honest.
yeah, I'm gonna ask politely that I'm not sure where this conversation is going. You're welcome to contact any one of us up here. I believe most, if not all of us, will certainly respond to you. But I just don't know the nature of the question is fitting for a council meeting this evening, but thank you very much. And your time is about 30 seconds. if you
30
want to
seconds.
take
Okay,
it.
if I got 30
Yeah.
seconds. Well, I think it is very appropriate because as a government body, okay, the United States of America, we're founded on principles where we do acknowledge that there is things that are intrinsically true and good. We wouldn't have, the right to life if not. So yes, that's the United States. If we don't recognize that there are certain things that are right, and certain things that are wrong, that's not the United States of America.
Fair enough.
So,
Thank
all
you.
right, thank you.
Yep. Ken?
Ken Edwards, 412 Meredith Street. First off, I would like to thank whoever helped get rid of the trees that were knocked down during a storm way back. And I know at one point I asked one of the staff members if who took care of trees, who determined whether they were dead, dying, or alive. And they asked me why. I said, well, because there's 4 oak trees across the street from me that are dying from the inside out. One of them is now completely gone. One is half gone. And there's 2 more that are on their way. And the best way to tell when a tree is really starting to die, and I've learned this from people that know their businesses, is when you look at the book, when the tree meets the ground, when it starts to look like an elephant's foot, the nails. That's it. It's on its way. I got two right now. Word apparently did not get passed on to the Shade Tree Commission. And, you know, one of those trees comes down on my place, you will hear from me, and not in a nice way.
And are these trees on your property?
Sometimes it flows out of the northwest, sometimes it flows out of the northeast, sometimes depends on where we end up in during the cycle of the storm. And there's two, one is Dix and Brush. Luckily, there was not much damage done to either. We have the fell on partial trunks of the tree fell that came down, fell on. One.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Rob or Kyle, who's the right person to look into that and whether, because it is the homeowner's responsibility to take a dead tree down. The determination of it being dead or near dead is by the Shade Tree Commission, who uses an arborist, I believe, to say that professionally it is. And then it's right. And then it's the homeowner's responsibility to actually take that tree down and replant it currently. And actually, which is a great entree to Wednesday night's meeting, which is really the Shade Tree Commission will be here. CAPA will be here. Kennett Trails Alliance will be here. Lexi, Rob will talk about sidewalks and zoning and it's really about Kennett, you know, how to beautify Kennett, just to kind of share results and progress of what's going on there here now, but also what sorts of improvements, sidewalks, what should we be doing about policing sidewalks and just the overall beautification of the borough. So love you to come out and kind of share your opinions. We'll have an open dialogue like we did in March as well. With that, are there any other public comments? Thank you very much. Council, any last minute comments? Mr. Mayor? Thank you very much. Is there a motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn?
A second?
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone.